I find absolutely astonishing is last week he was probably one of the most talked about people in the country.
Yeah.
And he was tailed by paparazzi, our camera and then not our camera, but also other cameras. And yet, not a single person saw the family enter Highgrove. Nobody saw them leave Highgrove. And nobody saw where they went next, because actually they didn't leave the country till Tuesday.
This is true. You raise a very valid point. So not a lot of people know this, but Harry and Meghan were in the country until Tuesday evening. So when you think the Invictus Games event was Friday, Saturday he did the Scottish Little Soldiers, and we've got some wonderful pictures to show you shortly of Harry and some goats. And then that left Sunday and Monday and Tuesday when all four of them were in the country,
They actually,
staying with friends.
They arrived on Thursday evening, didn't they?
Arrived Thursday evening, yeah. And then that meant nobody, often it's not necessarily the TV cameras that catch them, it's the newspapers who've probably paid for hundreds of cameras, or those who are freelance and know how much money they can make out of a picture.
Or a member of the public going, oh, is that Snap?
And
Nothing.
Not a single shot
That's
of Meghan
quite
or the
astonishing.
children. I think so, yeah.
How did they get away with it then? Because obviously the whole conversation regarding security was Harry saying, it's not safe for my wife and my children to be here. He's managed to get around that by basically doing no public engagements whatsoever with them, but also keeping so under the radar that not only did no member of the public know that he was here, that they were here, the whole family, for so many days, but also the press had no idea either. That is quite something.
Yeah. And, Meghan had originally been due to join him in Birmingham on Friday at that 1 year to go until Birmingham Invictus 2027. As we spoke about on the podcast last week, it was decided that she would no longer take part in any public engagements. But you're right, that is a long time for Meghan, Harry, Archie and Lilibet to be in the country and for nobody to have seen them or captured them.
I'm really happy for them.
Normally, particularly newspaper reporters will have a sniff of where they are staying or where they might be staying. And they stayed with, we think one of the nights they stayed in Althorpe, the estate, which is home to Charles Spencer, Harry's uncle. But the rest of the time, they stayed elsewhere. And nobody knows where, with friends.
But no, not at...
You did say last week he could stay in your room, didn't he?
I know, and I would like to exclusively confirm the family were not in my spare room.
They weren't. Okay, well, that's good that we've ruled that out.
Right, so we know where they were.
Because we weren't sure coming into this.
So that's
good to
I know you were wondering.
We were.
But no, they did not have like a full drink.
Or is this just a decoy and they were there and you're now telling us they weren't?
So. But that's true. I may not actually tell you if they were. You make
No, I think it's pretty remarkable that they managed to do that. But actually... good for them. I mean, on a human level, I think most people will think, wasn't that good that father got to see his son, that grandfather got to see his grandchildren, and after everything that Harry said about his stepmother, Queen Camilla, in those interviews around his book Spare. Pretty remarkable that she was in the room as well at the same time. I was told the meeting was, let's say, somewhere between an hour and 2 hours, which is longer than when Harry came over to see his dad last autumn. So you've got to think, I don't mean, who knows what they discussed and who knows what the atmosphere was like, but you've got to think at least it happened.
Well, yeah, it happened. And as you say, a grandfather got to see two of his grandkids that he's not seen for a really long time. And that in itself would be a blissful 2 hours of catching up with what they like doing, what they've been up to, how school's going, all of that.
And there's the icebreaker, because whatever tension there might be in the room between Harry and Camilla or Meghan and the King or anything else, you've got two little kids that you can talk about.
Who can run around that massive house.
Yeah.
Like even that alone, running around in the garden or what have you, it's just a really lovely thing.
They live in quite a big house in Montecito. They probably
I know.
Grandad, your house is really small.
No, but also all those houses are modern. When you go to somewhere like Highgrove, it's full of so much rich history, and I think that's such a wonderful thing for them to see what they are a part of, which I think is beautiful. I'm really happy for them. They're able to sort of pull this off. Spend time with friends, spend time with family without so much of the outside noise, which would have happened had Meghan actually gone to Birmingham and been at the celebration.
Yeah, do you know, I think one of the reasons was partly security, because if you've got two, every principal, I hear, you need two eyes on them. So like two close protection officers. So if you have Harry and Meghan, you need 4 eyes on them. But that also means that the children are going to be somewhere else. We don't know where, and they will need some kind of close protection. Now, if you're paying for all that yourself, and I'm not saying Harry and Meghan are short of money, but they don't have an endless pit of it. That's a lot of them, and that's tens of thousands of pounds you've just totted up there between 4, highly qualified close protection officers. They're not people you just get off the agency. These are people, for example, who have looked after presidents and prime ministers previously. So
and actually,
they're not cheap.
If Meghan had come to the event on Friday, if that had been her first public appearance here after all the drama of last week, I think the attention would have been so fully on Harry and Meghan that it would have really distracted and taken away from the event itself and that amazing community, which is actually what that was all about. And I think they probably partly recognised that actually they needed to retain the focus on that event.
I'm not saying this is the case, but it was suggested to me that given the week that Harry had security, Buckingham Palace, losing the court case in that very emphatic way that he did, was Meghan's PR mind saying, I don't necessarily want to be associated with Harry's week in the UK, so I'm just going to stay completely out of the picture.
Or just making it just made good sense.
Or just, be there for the kids.
Yeah, and just hang out with your mates in a really lovely way where you don't have to worry, am I going to walk out at my friend's house to like a whole barrage of paparazzi and cameras and, you can
hang out in your joggers, you can put your hair in a pineapple and you can just...
Squaddies, sit down, because what I'm about to walk you through is one of the most quietly savage moves the Sussexes have pulled in years, and almost nobody is talking about it properly. 4 days... 4 members of one of the most photographed families on the planet. 0 photos, 0 sightings, 0 tip-offs to a single tabloid, a single freelance snapper, a single concerned member of the public with a phone camera and a payday in their eyes. Prince Harry, Meghan, Archie and Lilibet were on British soil for the better part of a week, including a private reunion with King Charles and Queen Camilla that ran for up to 2 hours. And the entire UK press machine, the same machine that had spent the previous week treating Harry like the most talked-about man in the country, missed every single second of it. Today we're breaking down exactly how they did it, why it matters, and why the silence from certain corners of Fleet Street tells you everything you need to know about who actually controls the narrative here. Because, spoiler, it isn't them anymore. Let's set the scene. In the days leading into this trip, Harry was arguably the single most discussed royal in Britain. He'd just gone through a bruising, headline-dominating legal defeat in his security case against the Home Office. Every paper had an opinion. Every panel show had a segment. Paparazzi were reportedly trailing him. Broadcast cameras were parked outside anything that looked like it might produce a shot. And then, nothing. He lands quietly on a Thursday evening. By Friday, he's appearing publicly at the 1 year to go milestone event for the Invictus Games 2027 in Birmingham. Saturday, he's out with Scottish veterans, and yes, we'll get to the goats, because apparently even a serious military charity visit comes with a wholesome photo of Harry standing next to a goat, and honestly, let him have that. But here's where it gets interesting. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 3 more full days where Harry, Meghan and both kids were still in the country, and the press had absolutely no idea. Let that sink in for a second. This isn't a man who slipped in and out on a red-eye. This is 4 members of the Sussex family on British soil for the better part of a week, including a multi-day stretch with 0 public engagements, 0 scheduled appearances and 0 leaks. This is the part that should be getting way more credit than it is. Harry has said over and over, in interviews, in his memoir, in the courtroom, that his family's safety is not adequately protected in the UK. That was the entire premise of the legal fight he'd just lost days earlier. So naturally, the online peanut gallery, you know the ones, immediately tried to spin his UK visit as some kind of contradiction. If it's so dangerous, why go at all? Except look at what he actually did. He didn't rely on official state security to shield his family from the press. He did it himself through operational discipline. No public engagements with Meghan and the kids, no announced schedule, no pattern for photographers to anticipate. Reportedly staying part of the time at Althorpe, the Spencer family estate, home to his uncle Charles Spencer, and the rest of the time scattered elsewhere with trusted friends, location undisclosed. That's not luck. That's not the family getting away with something. That's a security-conscious operation, executed well enough that professional paparazzi, people whose entire livelihood depends on exactly this kind of catch, came up completely empty-handed. And ask yourself, doesn't that actually prove Harry's point? He said the current system leaves gaps that put his family at risk from stalkers, harassers, and yes, an overzealous press pack willing to pay serious money for a single shot. So he built his own protective bubble instead. And it worked. If anything, that's the strongest real-world evidence yet that his concerns were never paranoia. They were planning for a threat he understands better than anyone commentating on it from a studio couch. Now let's talk about the meeting itself, because this is the actual headline and it deserves more than a smug caption. Harry sat down with his father, King Charles, and with Queen Camilla for somewhere in the region of 1 to 2 hours. For context, that's reportedly longer than the meeting the two men had the last time Harry came over, back in the autumn. Longer conversation, more time in the room. Draw your own conclusions about what that might mean for where things stand. And here's the detail the critics conveniently skip past. Camilla was there too. After everything that was written about her in Spare, after years of tabloid narratives insisting this relationship was permanently, irreparably poisoned. She was in that room for up to 2 hours, at the same table as Harry and by extension in the general orbit of Meghan, and the grandchildren being nearby in the country. You don't have to know the transcript of that conversation to understand what it represents. People don't sit in a room together for 2 hours out of obligation. Whatever tension existed walked in the door with them, and it didn't stop the visit from happening, and it didn't stop it from running long. And then there's the part that should matter most to anyone watching this in good faith. A grandfather got to spend real time with 2 of his grandchildren he hadn't seen in a significant stretch. Not a photo op. Not a 5-minute wave for cameras. Actual hours in a house full of history, with kids running around a garden older than most countries' constitutions. Whatever your opinion of the politics here, that's a human moment, and it's a good one. This is where the critics really lost the plot. Meghan had originally been expected to join Harry in Birmingham for the Invictus 2027 milestone event. Then, quietly, it was decided she wouldn't take. Harry and Meghan are not short of money, but that doesn't mean money should be burned for no strategic reason. Second, think about what that Friday event actually was. It was a community celebration. 1 year out from Invictus Games 2027, built around veterans, wounded service members, and the volunteers who make that movement run. If Meghan had shown up for her first UK public appearance since the drama of Harry's court case loss just days earlier, where do you think the cameras would have pointed? Not at the veterans. Not at the Invictus community. At the Sussexes. Every single time. Staying away wasn't a snub to Harry's father's side of the family or a snub to the event. It was Meghan making sure the day stayed about the people it was supposed to be about. Third, and let's just say it plainly, it also made good PR sense, and there's nothing wrong with that. After a bruising legal week for Harry, avoiding a narrative where Meghan's face gets stapled to "Harry loses in court" headlines is basic, sensible media management. That's not scandal, that's competence. And fourth, maybe the simplest reason of all, sometimes you just want to be a mum. Hang out with your kids, see your friends, walk around in joggers with your hair. Begrudge her that. Strip away the noise. And here's what actually happened this week. A family that has been relentlessly pursued by parts of the British press for the better part of a decade managed, through discipline and planning, to spend 4 days on home soil, including a lengthy warm reunion with the King and Queen, completely undetected. The people who spent years insisting Harry was exaggerating the danger, exaggerating the intrusion, exaggerating the hunger of the tabloid machine to catch him and his family off guard, they just got a live demonstration of exactly how real that hunger still is. The only difference this time is that the Sussexes won. No leak location, no ambush shot outside a friend's front door, no grainy paparazzi long-lens photo dominating tomorrow's front page. Just a family, quietly, on their own terms, getting time with each other that money genuinely can't buy back once it's gone. That's not a family in crisis. That's a family that has learned the hard way exactly how to protect the moments that matter most. So, squaddies, that's the real story behind the visit nobody saw coming. And honestly, isn't that kind of the whole point? Some things shouldn't be a headline. Some things should just get to be family. If this kind of breakdown is what you come to this channel for, cutting through the spin and actually looking at the receipts, you know what to do. Smash that subscribe button, drop a like, and tell me in the comments. Do you think this quiet reunion says more about where things stand with the king than any staged photo op ever could? I'll see you in the next one.